Hello, everyone. I'm Hillary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations. Today, I'm joined by Hunter Prosper, a young man whose life has been shaped by listening. Raised by a single mother, he carries with him a sensitivity to the quiet struggles and unseen strengths of others. Hunter is a nurse, a storyteller, and a seeker of connection. He records people's stories in hallways, on sidewalks, and in ordinary places where our lives unfold. What he hears, what he shares, reminds us that vulnerability is a kind of courage, and that every life holds meaning when someone is willing to listen. Hunter, you just wrote a book, and your publisher reached out to me, so that's how we met. And I was so excited about what you're doing. It's similar to what I do. It's about stories and talking to strangers and learning.
I can't agree more, Hillary. I think we're a match made in heaven.
Why don't you fill me in on where you're at right now? What are you doing? What's your book about?
What I am doing is I traveled with my fiance all over the country and I interviewed hundreds of strangers. And from those hundreds of strangers, I chose 100 stories that deeply impacted me the most. And I made a book out of them. And so they're stories that have never been seen. For anyone unfamiliar with what I do, I go around the world and I ask strangers questions. And I've been doing that for 5 years now. And I've posted hundreds, thousands of videos. So they're stories that I've been sitting on that I've been wanting to share for so long. It's been like taking everything in me to keep this little secret that I have this book. For the past 2 years, I've been working on it. But it's here now. I'm excited to start telling people about it. I was feeling really disconnected with myself working in the ICU as a nurse. I was losing a lot of patients. My favorite thing about being a nurse was talking to people. Once I started losing a lot of those people, through illness and sickness, the ICU was a really intense setting. I started losing what I thought my skill was, which was connecting with people, because I wanted to stop connecting with people. Because every time I connected with someone, it felt like they passed away, or it felt like I would have to do CPR on them. And CPR on someone that you know is a lot harder than CPR on someone you don't know. So I disconnected myself. And then one day I said, okay, stop. You like to talk to people, Hunter. Force yourself to. So I went outside one day with no phone or anything, and I just talked to a stranger. And then that kind of just led to 5 years later. Now I have a book where I'm going on a book tour telling people about my book.
Now, the people you reach out to, you just pass them in the street or do you know them?
Just pass them in the street. So it's been like that forever, Hillary. That's how it started.
Well, let me go back for a moment because you said you started losing people. And
Yeah.
for the audience, it wasn't anything you did. It was during COVID, right?
Of course, yeah, and even ICU in a non-COVID setting this is a level one trauma hospital that I work at, so it's very intense. So I began working as a nurse in 2019, and then I worked as a resource nurse where I would go all over the hospital, all different floors. And I sort of fell in love with the ICU because I'd only been there a little bit, so I didn't really understand the true intensity of the ICU, but it's something that I thought I really wanted to do. And then COVID had hit. But pre and post COVID, ICU is a very intense situation, regardless. Regardless of what ICU you're in, it's intensive care. And so the person is in the ICU because they are in danger. And that danger sometimes includes the person losing their life. So that's just the reality of the setting that I was faced with every day. It's just something that I wasn't prepared for.
Are you an empath?
Yeah, I think I am, Hillary.
You relate to people very deeply, and at times you need to back up from it.
I think, Hillary, that's the hardest part of not just nursing, but medical work in general, is especially when you are described as an empath, you carry the weight of these people's lives. So you're expected to go to work, build enough friendship with them that you make them feel safe, and then as soon as you clock out, go home and just disconnect from it all. And that's just not reality. And that's what I face as nursing, but I think that's what a lot of medical care workers face in general. The ability to compartmentalize is not something that I have. I would go home and I would think about those patients. I mean, still to this day, I think about some of those patients that I had during my first shift, and it's like, it's been years now. And at times, those stories give me strength, and at times, those stories felt like they were breaking me down. And when it felt like the breaking me down was getting too intense, that's whenever I started leaning on making this type of content, which, yeah, ultimately led to this book.
What do you do for self care?
Well, so what I did at first was I would run. It was funny, Hillary, I'm not a runner, like at all. But during this ICU phase of my life, the first thing I did wasn't immediately talk to strangers on the street. The first thing I tried to do was running. Because when I ran, and this is going to sound so bad, and looking back, this was such a negative thing that I was doing, but it's what I thought was working. Is I would, after a shift, so I would go in 7 a.m., maybe a little bit earlier because you have to give report, and then leave at like 7:30, 8 p.m. because you have to give report. I come home, I would get my running clothes on, and I would go to the park near me, and I would just run circles, 5, 6 miles a day, because when I ran, I would get so tired and so exhausted from running, I couldn't think about my patients in the hospital. So in the hospital setting, it's already an uncomfortable setting, right? Like the person's in the hospital and they don't want to be there. And so when I talk to them, we would get really deep with each other and I'd hear all about their lives, and that's what I love to do. And then the person would need life-saving measures. What I was confusing myself with was that not all conversations lead to needing to give someone CPR, but my subconscious wasn't separating that fact. And so once I was able to snap out and realize that, Hunter, go outside and talk to this random stranger. When I spoke to her, she was carrying her groceries. I carried her groceries to her house. We talked for like 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half. I gave her a hug. She was so happy, and I went home. And that's what made me realize, oh, that's what a conversation is. That's what it can be. It doesn't always have to result in something so tragic at the end. And once I was able to truly understand that, that's whenever I was able to understand that a conversation can help me as much as I feel like it's been hurting me.
And that first conversation was the spark that led to everything else. When did you decide to go into nursing? How old were you?
I was 22. Whenever people ask me, oh, how do you know what you want to do when you grow up, right? And that's like the age old question. I think we try to figure that out into our 90s and hundreds, right? What I try to tell people is focus on what you like to do, but not specific. So, I never said that I wanted to be a nurse. I love listening to people. I wanted to help people. How does that manifest? So, I went to college actually to be an English major, and I really loved reading. And orating as well, like speaking was always fun for me. So all these things led to English, right? I was like, ooh, that's a hobby. And my mom, being a single mom and I'm her only child, was nervous because she was like, sweetie, the job market's not great for English majors, and you're my only child. So I want you to do whatever you want to do, but can you think about the medical field? She just knew like medical field is always going to be employable. That's where my single mom's head went, rightfully so. And, I listen to every single thing my mom says. She says jump, so I say how high. And I decided the first person I shouted was a nurse. And I didn't go into it with big expectations. I just knew nursing was admirable. I respected them, but I never really thought I wanted to do it. And the nurse that I shadowed, the patients that she healed, it was very much so because of the way she would talk with them, the conversation she would have. Like healing was done by the nurses because the nurses saw these patients. These patients felt like they actually mattered. They weren't just someone to give drugs to. Absolutely, that's what I want to do. That's my goal, is to do exactly what she did today. I want to do that every day of my life. And it just happened to manifest itself in a hospital setting or an outpatient setting or hospice setting. Just it doesn't matter what setting it's in, as long as the goal in mind is to hear people, to give them a voice and make them feel seen. At the foundation, it's listening to people and it's giving them a shoulder to cry on.
What are you doing right now? Are you still nursing? You're a travel nurse?
So my fiance now and I are a travel nurse duo. Travel nursing is great because it gave me a lot of flexibility. When I started to write this book, I would be gone for months on end interviewing people. So when I talk to strangers, that is hours long. Often the 2-minute videos that you see are distilled down from an hour long, 2 hour long, sometimes 3 hour long conversation. Because of this book, I put all my efforts into being able to make this the best book possible and curating the best stories I can. So right now, I am an author, but normally I am, full-time nurse, content creator, all that.
Do you stay in touch with the people you talk to?
So at first it was like almost a resounding no, because I was so small. Like the platform I had wasn't as large. But now it's gotten so big where if I post a story, there's a good chance there's going to be a comment or a top comment or whatever where someone says, "That's my aunt," or "Oh, that's my grandma," or "Oh, that's my best friend. She's great." And so then eventually the person finds the video and maybe finds me.
Do you direct the conversation? How does it go when you meet someone?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm sure you understand this intimately, Hillary. It's like conversation is a dance. So when I meet these people, it's completely random. When I walk up to them, the only people I talk to are the ones that cross my path and make eye contact with me. So if you don't, I'm like, okay, that person's doing something. Or if they're on the bench reading newspaper, I'm not going to walk up to them. They have to be on the same side of the sidewalk as me, crossing my path. And so that also makes this kind of hard because, I was telling you, I spoke to hundreds of strangers for hours, but it also takes me hours to find just one stranger sometimes because I don't run up to people. I don't go to a park, talk to the first 15 people I see. It's like I pick a block and I walk and just hopefully someone crosses my path. In terms of then directing conversations or how it goes, once I walk up to them and I see that they made eye contact and they smiled at me or something, I say, "Hey, my name's Hunter. Hey, I'm so and so." I do this weird thing where I interview strangers and I ask them a question. Can I ask you a question? And eight, 9 times out of 10, they say yes. If they say no, it's usually something really nice, like they don't like the way they look today, or they're like, no, that's something I can't do. I'm so tired right now. But 8 or 9 times out of 10, they say yes. And then we start talking. And it's kind of how I'm feeling, what question I want to ask them. That's why this has always been fun for me because these questions that I ask are the same questions I asked patients in the hospital. And they're also questions that there was a time in my life that I was too scared to answer these questions. Hearing these strangers answer these questions, it kind of has always emboldened me. It's given me a sense of therapy. It showed me their strength. It's given me strength. But of course, conversation, especially when it's an hour to 3 hours long, you dance in many different ways. Sometimes a person doesn't feel comfortable enough to talk yet, so now it's me leading the conversation for an hour and a half, and then the last 30 minutes, they won't stop talking. If you just go into it as, I want to listen to this person. If nothing they say is a usable clip, or if this wind is way too much and you can't pick it up in the microphone, I don't care. I just want to listen to what this person has to say.
So you said that sometimes you ask the same question you ask your patients. Give me an example.
Of course. That's a great question, Hillary, because the first question that got me really thinking that I wanted to do this was I had a patient who was about my age, a little bit older at the time, and we had given her news that she was going to die. There was nothing more that could be done, and she understood that. And she was, obviously didn't want to talk to anyone. I would go into her room often. She would maybe smirk at me or maybe not. And when I went in to change her IV, or I was doing this, this was 5 years ago now, I think maybe give her medicine or something of that sort. I decided just to ask her a question that I wanted her to tell me a little bit about her life, but I didn't know how to start that conversation with someone, especially in a setting that was so uncommon. You don't every day tell someone close to your age that they're going to die, and then they're still very lucid to be able to talk to you still. It's a very strange feeling for not just her, but for everyone in the situation. And so when I was doing what I had to do in her room, I asked her, "Who was your greatest love, and why'd you fall in love with them?" And she was looked at me. She was taken aback, and all of a sudden she starts crying. And at first, I was thinking I really messed up. I wanted to treat her like a normal person, right? Like she had just been given this news, and I was like, "What should I do?" Oh, just treat her normal. And I was like, "Great, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done." She's crying now, and she starts smiling this beautiful smile, and the tears are actually tears of joy. And she's so happy because now she's recounting the story of this man that she loved. And it was sort of at that moment that I realized that one, these open-ended questions are beautiful because a person can just talk as long as they want about whatever they feel like, whatever their heart desires. But also, it showed me that we all have a story. And it's not just the woman who was recounting the story of being in love, this guy that she loved as well. And I don't know why they didn't work out. I don't know the intricacies of the relationship. But what I do know is that he brought her enough happiness where she cried on her deathbed. And so that question really struck a chord with me. And it's a question that I used for a very long time as one of my only questions that I ask people. That question at first, who is your greatest love and why'd you fall in love with them? That was an example of why I ask that question now to people on the street. Because every single time I ask it, I think very deeply and fondly of that patient.
Do you find that you're learning things for your life from each person?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's really showing me that we do all have a story, and it's making me feel less alone, and also it's giving me less anxiety. Sometimes I'd be in a crowd of people, and maybe I'd be nervous, like there's so many people to talk to, or none of these people are gonna like me, or what are they gonna think about me? When in reality, I have intimately realized now that everyone has felt anxious, everyone has felt happy, everyone has felt love, everyone has felt pain. Now, the experience of why that person has felt that, that's unique to them. But emotions are not unique at all. I mean, you and I have both felt love. Now, for what, I don't know. Maybe mine was for my dog and yours was for a family member, but it's still love. Our heart still, tinges. And that's it's kind of made me feel closer to everyone around me because I know that that's the thread that kind of connects us as humans, our emotions.
Have you drawn any conclusions about death?
Yeah, well, death is always something that I've certainly understood, especially as a nurse. But I think I came to this conclusion while being a nurse and also while doing these stories at the same time is that that's what kind of makes this whole thing more beautiful, is that it is temporary. Whatever someone may believe in, at least this physical world, we know that we're not here forever. And because of that, it kind of makes moments more special. But I think it's very grounding to remind yourself that you got a certain number of years, like this whole thing's not forever. It might be 100 years. I think understanding that makes me more accepting of death.
I think, yeah, for me, it's become very precious. I don't think I'm afraid of it at all. I don't think I ever was. I had just some feelings even as a child that maybe in some way we continue, whether it's just our energy, our consciousness, and I don't need to continue as me.
Yeah.
It can be much bigger. And then I had the most amazing gift. I had a dove, a pet dove that's a little girl gave me. And he lived with me for 8 years. I'm saying he, but I don't really know
Yeah.
how to know if it was a male or a female. And when he died in my hands. And I could feel the death. I could feel the body go through its death rattle, and like the fight. And then I saw him expand. I saw him leave the body and just expand.
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, I mean I think that's such a beautiful moment, and it also shows that this physical manifestation of our experience might not be the last experience we have here.
We'll never know exactly.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I wish someone could just come down and tell us, like, no, 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 this is what happens, you know. But I think that also is what makes life beautiful too, is the different understandings of what could happen next, But as long as there is a next, I think that makes this thing even more exciting.
I think it's an important part of being alive is to know that it's not permanent,
Yeah, of course,
and that you get to change.
of course, yeah. No, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
That was such a profound reflection on life and what might come after. I'd like to bring the focus back to you for a moment. Tell me about your fiance. What's her name and how did you meet?
My fiance's name is Madison.
Madison, I love that name.
Oh, I do too.
And where did you meet her?
I met her in the hospital. Yeah, so before I became an ICU nurse, I was working all throughout the hospital I had mentioned before. And one of the floors that I picked up on was her floor. And it was a night shift and I met her and I wish she was here right now. She'd be able to tell you the opposite of what I'm about to say, but it was love at first sight. She would say the opposite because she it was a night shift and her she had a dumpster fire assignment as we call it, so there's a lot of things going wrong. And all I wanted to do was talk to her. All she wanted to do was just get her patients feeling better and for me to leave her alone. I would help her any chance I could with her patients, and because I wanted to help the patients, obviously, but also mainly because I wanted to get to know her better.
And how long have you been together?
We've been together 4 years and 8 months.
You travel together.
Yeah, exactly. So in the book, you'll be able to see pictures as well, and all those pictures were completely her. This, poor thing. I would talk to some people for, like I said, 3, 4 hours, and I'm completely engaged in the conversation. And Madison would have to just snap pictures while the person's talking for 3, 4 hours, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing this, girl, but you're doing an amazing job. And so, yeah, a lot of as I'll call them, breathtaking photos, very candid, beautiful photos of these strangers. They're all taken by her.
Do you shoot video also?
Yeah, I do videos. So whenever I make content for my social media, she's not with me when I do that. It's just me walking around aimlessly for hours. I wouldn't subject her to doing that for these last 5 years because she herself is a nurse as well, so she doesn't have the time. On her days off, she doesn't want to walk aimlessly in a park with me for 8 hours.
And what countries have you gone to?
Great question, Hillary. So, I mean, obviously America, Canada, and then the UK, France, Germany, Switzerland. Yeah, that might. Oh, Italy. Yeah, so I've done interviews in all of those countries. I've been to a couple other for different reasons, but for interviews, yeah.
Do you have a favorite story?
Oh, that you know what? That's almost impossible, Hillary. It's like picking your favorite child. I go through a lot of my old videos just to rewatch them. It's kind of it's a beautiful thing because since I'm not in them, it's not really like I'm watching old interviews of me. I'm watching just old interviews of strangers who are just people. It's beautiful because at certain moments in my life, I need to hear different words. I was just going through an old video 2 nights ago. It was so impactful to me in that moment. Obviously, the story was beautiful to me, but it didn't impact me the same way. Each of these stories meets you where you are, and that's why I love them so much.
And what do you think? Have you thought about what the power of storytelling is?
I mean, honestly, Hillary, that's probably the oldest thing we have in our genes, right? Is storytelling, is orating, is having vibrations from our vocal cords come out, and then people listen to them from inside their eardrums, right? Like just us talking has it's as human as being a human is. And so there's so much power in storytelling because I think that that's the fuel of our society.
Were you extroverted as a child?
So it was always my mom and I growing up. I think I always felt like I needed to protect my mommy, is probably what young Hunter thought. And so to protect her, I would always make sure that I was included in conversations when she was around, right? Or if she was talking to a friend, I was joining that conversation. Or if she wanted extra honey mustard at McDonald's, I would go get it. Don't worry, mama. Like I'll ask the person. And so because of that, I felt like this sense of wanting to like protect her. And so I think my sword to protect her was conversation, was the ability to assess anyone.
Where did you grow up?
A really small town called Emporium, Pennsylvania. And I still go back and visit because my mom still lives there, so does my grandmother and a lot of my family. It was a population of like 3,000, 2,000. I graduated with 40 kids. So it's a very small school, very, very, you have an intimate knowledge of everyone, even if you don't want it.
There's something incredible about small towns, and it could be difficult.
It's a sword, right? There's two sides to it, right? And at one swing, it's really cool because you know everyone. On the other swing, it's not fun because you know everyone, and that means everyone knows you. So for me, I feel as though, so it certainly boxed me in and made me want to see more. And that's actually why I moved to Pittsburgh, went to school, and also got a job because it was bigger, right? And I wanted bigger. I think the dangerous thing of small towns back in the day was maybe the lack of information facilitating. Whatever information was in that small town, whatever they wanted to be in that small town is what it was. Rarely people would get New York Times magazine. And so that town would kind of just say whatever it wanted to, and people would grow up thinking a certain way, a very parochial view in life. And they'd say, no, well, I don't want to expand anything because this is how I see things. While maybe just the kids a little bit older than me suffered from that small town type thing, I think I benefited that social media was coming up and I was able to see, oh wow, the world is very large. I don't have to be subscribed to magazines or to newsletters or something to understand that this world is bigger than I can even comprehend. If someone says something very off-putting in my town, that's okay. That's just how they feel. That's not the world view.
But I remember reading a lot as a child.
Yeah, there
And
it is. Yep.
and that was my way out. I grew up on Long Island up until about 14, and then we moved to California. And all I could do is dream about getting out,
Yeah.
seeing France. When I got to the Eiffel Tower, I just broke down and cried.
That's so beautiful. And to piggyback off of that, that's the importance I see of this book as well, is it shows how connected we are as people. This book can be given to someone in a small town, and then they can hear the point of views of people all over the country. My videos can show the point of view of people all over the world. And so, yes, I think books are an amazing tool in that aspect to show you that there are more than just one view out there.
How does your storytelling affect your life?
I'm not gonna lie, Hillary, I still get extremely nervous every single time I walk up to a stranger. I've done thousands of interviews, and every single time, if I had a heart monitor on, you'd see my heart like spiking. And it's so interesting because I'm like, Hunter, you've done this how many times? Like, just walk up to this person. But I will say, I have not walked up to a lot of people because of that nervousness. And you only have to feel that regret a couple times.
So, when is the book coming out? And tell me all about it.
Yeah, the book is coming out September 23rd.
The name of it.
And is Stories from a Stranger, which is exactly what my videos are called as well. I traveled all over the country, interviewed hundreds of strangers, and from those hundreds, I picked my favorite.
How many stories are in this book?
So there's 100. There's a little bonus thing in there that people will notice whenever they open the book. I don't want to give it away until they see it, but
Okay.
but I got a cool chance to talk to a lot of people, and there's interstitial pages in between each chapter as well, which are notes from strangers. So each chapter is set up asking a different question. Each of those questions, I also set up something called a notes table, which I do notes from a stranger as well. And what that is people walk up to a table that I have a paper that says maybe what's the most pain you felt that wasn't physical. And they walk up to that, and then they anonymously write a note card and put it in a fishbowl. So I did that for all of these questions as well. And then I photo scanned those notes and then put them in the book as well. So you are getting hundreds of stories from people where I have pictures of them, but you're also getting hundreds upon hundreds of stories in the little interstitial pages of the notes. So, and it's kind of cool because you see everyone's different handwritings, and I feel like handwritings have their own personalities as well.
Are you going on a book tour?
I am going on a book tour, yes. I've never done it before, so I'm very nervous. And I also, because people are the main centerpiece to my videos, I always get really shy having to talk about myself. The center of attention is always the person I'm interviewing, never me. I always feel like the conduit for their story. I never feel like I actually am the story. So when I ever have to tell people, I'm going to be here, I'm not great at it. But yes, September 23rd, I'm having my book launch in Pittsburgh, which is where I'm from and which is where Stories from a Stranger started. And then from there, I go to Dallas, and then I go to Seattle. And then later on in November, actually, I'm going to St. Louis.
Are you going to build time to get more stories?
Yeah, so, I still interview people on the street randomly. And so when I'm in these cities, that's certainly probably what I'll do in my downtime is just walk around and maybe try to get a story or two. Like I said, it's kind of hard because it takes me hours, so my downtime isn't like just like a cigarette break, you know what I mean? It's like I gotta probably carve out 2 or 3 hours if I want to make sure I can intimately get at least one story. But yeah, while I'm in these cities, certainly want to talk to the people of them.
How's your mom doing?
Oh man, yeah. My mom would be proud of me no matter what though. I don't think me doing this makes her any more proud than whenever I learned how to tie my shoe, you know what I mean, or whenever I learned how to ride a bike. Her happiness for me has been one level since I was born, which is the ceiling, the ultimate. But it's been weird for her. When I first started social media, she was so scared. When I was on social media just as like regular social media, I had a few hundred followers. That was like my friends from my town and friends from college. But then whenever I started to post, I was becoming very public and hundreds of thousands and then eventually millions of people were seeing my stuff. We've since learned how to temper our anxiety with those big numbers.
Where can people find you?
So you can find me on any social media like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and my name is Hunter Prosper. So all of those social medias, that's what I'll be, is Hunter Prosper, which is just my name.
What's next for you?
Would love to promote this book, and I would love to see this book do well, and doing well means that a lot of people get to hear all these beautiful stories. And that's what matters the most to me right now. I would love to make more books. I mean, this was at times grueling process, but at more often than not, a beautiful, amazing, eye-opening process for me. And so whatever I do, I just want to shine a light on the fact that every person has a story. Yeah, there's amazing people all over the world. That's what makes this world so cool. I'm happy you gave me the opportunity to talk about this and to talk about this book. It's a really exciting thing for me. And that's the beautiful thing about conversations is whenever you let down that wall and you just decide to talk, that's whenever the most beautiful conversations are facilitated. So I appreciate you opening a platform for me to do that.
Oh, definitely. Anytime. And we're going to come back once this book goes out.
That's right. That's right. We're going to talk about what the book tour process was like and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And what the next one's about.
Exactly.
Thank you, Hunter. The book is Stories from a Stranger, 100 encounters distilled from thousands of walks and conversations. Hunter launches his book tour September 23rd in Pittsburgh, then heads to Dallas and Seattle with St. Louis in November. You can find him on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Hunter Prosper. I'll link everything in the show notes. If this conversation moved you, share it with a friend and be sure to subscribe. I'm Hillary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations, where the ordinary becomes luminous when somebody makes a space to hear your story. See you next time.